Let's take it from the top, people. So my name is Shanza Khan. I'm the CEO and head counselor at Ion Ivy. We are really fortunate today to be joined by Jaree Heather. Hi, Jaree. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Jaree, everybody wants to know, Jaree essentially is an alumni from the Oxford summer programs, having spent 1 year at Oxford University and another year at Columbia University. And today we want to kind of get his take on why summer programs, which summer programs are better, and so on. He did his high school from the International School of Manila in Philippines and is currently a second-year student in political science at University of British Columbia in Canada. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us today, Jaree.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So, Jaree, I'm going to ask you questions that many students and most parents ask me. The first one being, if I take part in this summer program, and it's not exactly a very cheap proposition, is it going to look good on my CV? And two, is it going to help me with college admissions? What's your take?
Okay, so the answer to that really depends on what you want to do. If the courses you take in these summer programs are actually helpful towards the major you want to do, then yeah, it would be helpful towards your college resume, because you can really put anything on a college resume, but something like this that has big names involved and big universities involved, that tends to kind of be, it tends to be that keyword that colleges like to see. And at least in my case, it was helpful when I applied to UBC. I can't speak for all universities, but in my case, it was, yeah.
So you do think that taking part in that summer program helped you in the process of college admissions to UBC?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, because this is a very common question. In fact, I got it yesterday from a parent. Is this going to help me with admissions? So I thought, let me ask you directly. So Jaree, can you tell me a bit about how long was the program? Let's start with your experience at Oxford. How long was the program? Did you have a chance to choose which subjects you wanted to study? Tell us a little bit about your experience.
So mine was 4 weeks long, but I know that they offer 2-week options and also a 1-week option, depending on which one you do. And every program has different subjects, but normally you choose like a major and a minor that you do. And typically there's 20 or so you can choose from. So in my case, I believe in Oxford, it was law was my major, and then I had business as my minor. So there's lots to choose from.
And does Oxford follow, I know for undergraduate, they have a tutorial method of teaching. Do they follow that in the summer program as well?
Yeah, they do in a way, because US and UK teachings vary in the way that in the UK, and especially in Oxford, it's very small scale discussions rather than lectures. So it's, 8 or 9 students and one lecturer, whereas in the US, it's, 20, 30,
Big
even
class.
100 students. Yeah, so they do follow that format. Yeah, definitely.
And what does a typical day in the program look like? It's a very short duration, even if it's 4 weeks or even 2 weeks. It's a very short duration. So do you have classes all the way from morning to evening? Is it just about the studies? Do you get an opportunity to network and get to know other students?
So typically in the morning, I believe like 8 to 10, you get to have breakfast with other students. 10 to 12 would be your first class, and 2 to 4 would be your second class. That's the standard format that I had for both programs. But the projects that they assign you, you're supposed to do them for the rest of the day. So while you could do other things and network with other students, that's really what you're supposed to do for the rest of the day.
Okay, so you're supposed to be working.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But I believe that they do factor in, especially on the weekend, some kind of fun stuff or educational tours as well for you to really get to see the city and get to know the area too, correct?
Oh yeah, so in Oxford, we got to go to London. And in the US, in the Columbia program that I did, you got to choose from 8 or 9 schools. A lot of them were Ivies that you could go tour, and you could pick whichever one you want. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities like that, and smaller scale stuff like day trips.
Sure. We have a student asking that, did you qualify for any kind of financial aid or scholarships when you applied to this program? Do you know if they offer any? How does this work?
Yeah, there are scholarship opportunities. You would have to apply for them in advance. So probably, honestly, the December before the summer, because typically
Mm-hmm.
they fill up pretty fast. They're very popular. But yeah, there's financial aid.
Okay, that's helpful to know. And then if I were to ask you, and you're a very rare case in that I don't know students who've done summer programs in both in the US and in the UK, and you were part of the experience at Columbia University. Could you compare and contrast that a little bit? What did you feel you liked better in the Oxford program versus the Columbia program?
In my case, I did like the US program better, which is why I ended up going to North America for college. These two programs were actually kind of a deal breaker for me when I was deciding where I wanted to apply for college.
Mm-hmm.
UK, I felt that the subject selection wasn't as good as the one in the US, at least for someone like me who wanted to go in the arts. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
sciences and uh, you know, your basic mandatory subjects were available in the Oxford program, whereas in the Columbia
Mm-hmm.
program, it's a lot more niche stuff. So you could do anything from, film to fashion to politics, or, all of those kind of arts. So I preferred that, but I know that in other people's case, it could be the UK also.
Okay. Another student is asking whether you're aware if 100% aid is available or not.
I don't think it would be possible to give 100% aid, but I know it would be close because,
Okay. Well,
they just do accommodation. The rest you would probably have to pay for.
yeah. Yeah. On what is the acceptance rate, if you're aware of that?
I don't think there's one publicly available, but if I had to guess, it's pretty high if you're not applying for a scholarship.
Okay. Well, I can speak to some of the other programs, like globally speaking, there is the Yale Young Global Scholars Program, there is the MIT RISE program. These programs, in fact, for instance, particularly the MIT RISE program, is completely free as long as you get accepted, but then the acceptance rate is really, really low.
Yeah.
It's, and you also have to qualify and meet certain prerequisites in order to be part of such a program. So the MIT RISE program is only for girls. It's only if you're majoring or planning to study either mathematics, STEM, engineering, something related to that domain. Whereas the beauty of, say, the Oxford summer program, for instance, is that you have a wide variety of menu to pick and choose which subjects you want to study. Is that correct, Jaree?
Yeah.
Okay. So Ramin, it's not the RISE program, it's the MIT RISE. So RISE program. You can Google it and you'll be able to get more information about it, but that's a completely free program. It just has a very, very low acceptance rate. So Jaree, coming back to the academic teachings of these programs, apart from, say, your major and minor, do you have a chance to sit in on other classes, or just very much sticking in the subjects you selected?
I personally did not sit in other classes, but the teachers were pretty friendly, and they weren't treating it as seriously as they would an actual college lecture. So I'm pretty sure you could sit in if you really wanted to.
Okay.
Possible.
And these are one of the few college tips one reads about in books, but did you get a chance to befriend the faculty at these institutions? Did you ever ask them for recommendations when you were writing your college application?
I did not write, well, I didn't directly ask for recommendations, but if you get good grades in the program, which again, you have a final exam and stuff, then towards the end of the
Oh,
program,
wait.
letter,
Yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't realize that there is a final exam. You learn something new
yeah,
every
there's
day.
some form of an exam. It could be a project or an actual test, but yeah, you do get a grade for it, and your teacher writes a pretty long description of how you did in the program, and it's essentially a recommendation if you do well, but you know.
Okay, okay. So this is not something that you can basically, if you're well off, ask your parents to pay for it to help you go there. You actually need to sit and study for the courses and take an exam or do a project at the end of it in order to secure that evaluation and good recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. How big was your cohort, Jaree? How many other kids were in the same program as you? For both Columbia as well as Oxford?
It must have been close to 80 to 100 people. It wasn't huge, but it was a lot of kids.
And what was the mix of international students? I mean, you went from Manila, and if you were just to basically comment on the diversity of the class, where were people from?
Oh, it was very diverse. You pretty much had people from everywhere, to be honest.
Okay.
So I think more so in the US program than the Oxford program.
Okay.
I'm not really sure the reasoning for that. I think that's just how the batch turned out. But for the most part, it's pretty diverse. And I think they make their selections that way as well when you apply for the program.
Okay. So that is one of the factors being considered, like what your background is and where you are from?
Yeah, definitely.
What other things, Jaree, are they looking at when you are applying to such a program?
Well, in my case, I did apply a while ago, but they did ask me for a transcript of my grades.
Okay.
I assume that plays some factor in whether you get in or not, especially because some subjects were more popular than the others. So for certain majors, I think they would only let the better students in compared to other less popular majors.
Sure. I know. So there are various types of even Oxford summer programs, and I know that the ones organized by the Oxford Institute ask you to write a 500-word essay, and there is an interview as well if you're shortlisted. Did you have an interview, Jaree?
I believe I had a written prompt. I don't think I had an actual interview.
Okay, okay. And somebody's asking in the chat box, what is the deadline for the MIT RISE program? Ramin, I'm actually not sure, but if you shoot us an email after this conversation, we can help you out for that. So the person you want to contact is Hina, HINA, @ionivy.com, and she should be able to help you with your queries. So, Jaree, looking back at this experience, something I think many freshmen are also interested in. How was it living in the dorms? Was this your first experience of kind of stepping into a college environment? How was the food? Did you have problems with halal issues? Stuff like that. What would you talk to about for a Pakistani audience? What should they watch out for?
Okay, so as far as food goes, they have accommodations for pretty much every type of diet, and you can tell them in advance too, and they would prepare a special meal. And as far
Wow,
as
that's really accommodating.
as far as the dorms and the classrooms go, they are the actual dorms and classes of the colleges themselves. So this is about as accurate of a college experience as you can get. And for a lot of people,
Wow.
it could kind of be the deal breaker of whether you would want to apply there or not.
So it's also like a good perhaps stepping stone to see whether you actually want to go to that university after you've gone there for a summer program. So perhaps you can go there and say, You know what? The dorms were so horrid. I can't imagine spending 4 years in here. Though I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Oxford is a place known for like its Harry Potter-esque kind of
Oh yeah,
accommodation.
the dorms were great. That yeah, I had no issues with the dorms. The Oxford dorms were actually really nice, like much nicer than I expected.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a rapid fire over here. What was the best thing about the Oxford summer program within Oxford University?
Probably just the classes themselves because they're taught by people who have some relation to Oxford, whether they're a professor or a student or graduate or whatever. So that itself is probably the best part.
Worst part?
Worst part? Um,
You can be honest.
Probably the expense. The price itself is definitely it's very expensive if you're not applying for financial aid.
Yeah, it is. That's true. It is a very expensive program. Best thing about the Columbia program?
Um, okay, I could say both of the same things. I think for Colombia though, the main thing that I liked was it was pretty much, I mean, the setting itself, just New York is a great place, and whenever you have free time, it's very fun to explore. And they do let you, pretty much explore it however much you want. And in a lot of the classes, you get to go out into New York and into Soho or wherever as part of the class. So I think that was probably the best part.
Worst part? Apart
Worst
from
part,
expense.
apart from expense, I mean, the dorms were okay, but then again, it's New York and like, yeah, you can't expect too much out of a college dorm. So if I had to choose, yeah,
Okay,
totally.
guys. Yeah, I think New York, you can't expect too much generally. What about and we got cut across one of the points that I'm sure a lot of parents are worried about is that what happens, whether it's Columbia or Oxford, that once the day's schedule is over in terms of the courses you're supposed to attend and so on, what adult supervision is there to make sure, people don't do stuff they're not supposed to do?
I mean, you have a curfew, then that you're supposed to sign up at, and then they pretty much escort you back to your dorm. So there's not much room for that. In between that time,
Oh, so
so
you,
from
you
like
get escorted to your dorm?
yeah, you quite literally get escorted back to your dorm, escape it. But before that, so from the end of class, so like 4 to 10 p.m., you can pretty much do whatever you want. There's not much in the room of stopping you, but I think that's the time you would probably either work on your projects, or if you made friends there, you can just explore the area, because the setting is pretty great. But there's always
Sure.
supervision, and there's always emergency services and stuff they have for you. There's always like a front desk you can go
Okay.
to or you can call.
And generally speaking, particularly, I'm glad you mentioned the front desk. What about things like, or was anybody there during this process if they had a health issue? What happens then? Particularly in their era of COVID, I think this is something which kind of worries parents. What happens if there is an emergency health situation? Do they take care of it? Do you have like a designated person who's overseeing your group of people who helps you with all of this stuff?
Well, yeah, so there's always a nurse available with first aid, but I can't speak for COVID because I didn't go, I went there before COVID was a
Yeah.
thing. But I would assume that if they've relaunched during COVID, that they're going to make some sort of accommodation for that. So I wouldn't be too
How
worried.
old were you when you went, Jaree?
When I went to Oxford, I was like 15. When I went to New York, I was 16, 17.
Okay. And if you were to do this all over again, would you?
Yeah, I would definitely do it again.
Were there any other programs you were considering, or you kind of always thought Oxford is kind of where I want to go and check out?
Yeah, initially it was between Oxford and Cambridge, obviously because they're both of equal stature, but I settled on Oxford just because, you know, I was just amazed by Oxford at the time. And then for the US programs, there's quite a lot that you can go through. It's not just Columbia. I just settled on
Yeah.
Columbia because it's kind of in the middle of New York and there's a lot of stuff to do. And just the
Yeah,
location was
no,
better.
absolutely. So we have a lot of students who have joined us. We've had, quite a few questions about financial aid in particular. But guys, if there's anything other you wish to want to ask Jaree, you can type it in here, or you can send the questions our way, and we would forward them to Jaree to respond to if you're unable to help you with your query. But Jaree, I'm really thankful for you to take out this time to talk to us about your experiences. Any last comments or advice for students who are thinking of applying to summer programs? It's in some sense, there are several things students have to do over the summer, particularly as they get more towards college, SAT prep, considering a possible internship. How did you kind of make that calculus that I think I'm going to spend my summer doing a summer program versus maybe just relaxing and doing nothing, but some other alternative?
So for the most part, summer, you kind of have 2 months of summer break. So you have June and July. July is normally when all of these programs happen, and June is normally when all these are. So it kind of lined up perfectly in a sense. And I think it's better than just doing nothing in your summer. I mean, eventually you're gonna get bored. You're gonna want something to do. So I think this is probably perfect.
Yeah, guys. So for all of you who are tuning in today, I mean, a big advocate for spending your summers productively. I'm going to actually pivot. I know this discussion is primarily about summer programs, UK versus US, about how competitive college admissions process has become, and therefore you actually don't want to leave your summers unutilized. You should be doing something productive in them. So I'm for those who kind of tuned in later in the day, Jaree did mention that participating in these programs helped him in his college admissions process. So just kind of reiterating that fact. And any other advice that you would give people who are tuning in today, Jaree?
I would say that especially if you're from Pakistan, if you want to do one of these programs, I mean, you have to decide in this month because, A, you have to apply for a visa, and B, they fill up fast. So at least in my case, we started everything around this time. So I would definitely recommend.
So thank you so much for that. Those are very important points that you highlighted, the practical points about this entire process, that visa considerations. If you are not a citizen, which most of us are not dual citizens, we need to be applying as early as possible. And then just in terms of the paperwork and deadlines, I think there was a question, what are the summer schools which we can still apply to? So I know that Oxford and Cambridge still have their deadlines, which are open till the end of the month. Once again, if you're interested, please email hina@ionivy.com. We will be able to help you with your queries. With regard to US programs, it's a mixed at this point. Many of the deadlines for the competitive programs have already closed. So for guys, depending, maybe this is something you should keep in mind for next summer. The US deadlines are normally November or December, even if you're planning to apply for financial aid, which I strongly suggest that you do. UK deadlines can go all the way till Jan or Feb if you are not, asking for a visa. If you're not asking for a visa, then you can, I think, even stretch it till March. But as Jaree mentioned, the earlier you apply and process all of these things, the better it is.
Yeah.
So, Jaree, thank you so much for your time. And, I know you're visiting Pakistan on holiday, And I really appreciate the fact that you took time out to connect with all our students, and we are very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaree, and I wish you a very nice rest of vacation and good luck with continuing your program at UBC.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too, Jaree. Bye.